Welcome back to my channel. As I'm sure all of you know, Howie Roseman is probably the best GM in the NFL, definitely the best GM in the history of the Eagles franchise. However, it's not always so great, and he is a little bit lucky. In today's video, I'm going to go over 3 near disasters for Howie Roseman, which would have changed how he's seen around the Eagles and around the country, and would likely have taken away all of the Eagles' success the past 4 or 5 years. Before I get into it, yes, of course, I acknowledge Howie Roseman is great. I am an Eagles fan, just so you know. But I think it is slightly more luck than some people are giving it. Some people are acting like it's just 100% skill, 0% luck. I think maybe it's 50-50, and after you see these examples, you might agree with me. However, one thing to be said for each of these 3 examples is that in the end, he did choose not to do these things. So that is a bit of skill. Before I get into it, please consider subscribing to my channel for more videos, but back to the video. Starting off with the first near disaster that Howie Roseman had, and that is that he almost signed Allen Robinson II, the former Bears wide receiver, in 2022. And yes, I know it's a long time ago, you might not remember. So anyways, he was very good for the Bears for a few years, then he had a bad year, and then he went into free agency. The Eagles went very hard after him. However, Allen Robinson took a rather similar offer from the Rams instead of the Eagles because, well, he wanted to live in LA, and maybe he thought the team had more chances of success, something like that. Howie Roseman wanted him real bad, and this was after he had a bad season the year before. He didn't get him. That could have cost the Eagles their Super Bowl, could have cost them going to both, because if they would have signed Allen Robinson, they would not have traded for A.J. Brown. The Eagles without A.J. Brown don't go to the Super Bowl. He's the best wide receiver in the history of the Eagles, maybe just one of the best wide receivers in the history of the Eagles, if you want to be kind to some all-time greats. While yes, Howie Roseman did make the trade for him, if he got his way earlier in the year, he would have ended up with Allen Robinson. And if you haven't kept track of how Allen Robinson was doing, maybe he's an A.J. Brown replacement. Not really, because he's practically out of the league. He only lasted 1 year in Los Angeles, 1 year in Pittsburgh, now 1 year in Detroit. He's just done for, while A.J. Brown is out there killing it. So that is my first example of Howie Roseman's happy little accidents. And you'll notice in this video, all 3 of these happened in the offseason before 2022. It was an amazing offseason, but it was half a second for being a disastrous offseason. The second one is Russell Wilson. Howie Roseman loves Russell Wilson. They always talk about how Howie Roseman wanted to draft Russell Wilson out of the draft. They thought they could wait another round. They couldn't. Seahawks got him. One of Howie's and the Eagles' big regrets. So when Russell was available to be traded for from the Seahawks, of course the Eagles were at the front of the line. This is after a season of starting Jalen Hurts. He went 9-8, got blown out in the playoffs, and Howie wasn't sure if he wanted to stick with Jalen Hurts or not. Of course we know he did, and it's all worked out. But it was very close to not happening. The Eagles did everything they could to get Russell Wilson. However, Russell Wilson vetoed the Eagles and said he did not want to be traded there. If Russell said, hey, I'd like to be an Eagle, Howie would have traded for him, and then we would have gotten rid of Jalen Hurts. We would have had that disastrous year that Russell Wilson had in 2022, which was bad enough that he got cut. He was so bad that they were willing to just burn $50 million or however many it was. Instead, we had cheap Jalen Hurts on a rookie contract, which led us to the Super Bowl, and then led us to winning the Super Bowl. But we were so close to not having that. And since the reason this didn't go through was not because of Howie, but instead was because of Russell Wilson denying it, I can't even give Howie credit for not doing it. He just got lucky. And, you know, sometimes in the NFL, GMs get lucky, players get lucky. That's part of it. I realize I just would like to point out the times when it was almost a disaster. And then this final example that I have, same year, same offseason, same position of quarterback, you might remember someone known as probably the worst contracts in the history of the NFL, and that is Deshun Watson. The Eagles really wanted Deshun Watson. They were one of the final 3 or 4 teams in contention for him. However, they lost out to the Browns. And while this could just be the Browns being a disastrous organization who would just give anything up, the Eagles were in the mix. They were one of the final 3 or 4 teams who really wanted him the same offseason right after they got rejected by Russell Wilson. But as you can tell, all 3 of these situations, the Eagles really tried to make one choice. It didn't work out, so they had to go to their backup choice, and their backup choice ended up being excellent. It was A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts. Great backup choices. But this is not 100% skill. It is partially luck. Now, of course, you have to give Howie his props. I'll mention some of his great moves. Drafting Jalen Hurts. Everyone thought it was really weird, but it was excellent. Drafting Jordan Mailata, drafting Jalen Carter. The past 3 or 4 years, he's really been excellent. Almost can't miss. I mean, I guess Bryce Huff, but he has been an excellent GM the past few years. It just has a little bit of luck mixed in with all that skill. So overall, yes, I think it's more skill than luck. But I thought it would be worth to point out that yes, Howie Roseman does make some mistakes sometimes. Anyways, subscribe to my channel for more NFL content. Leave a like or comment down below, and I'll see you later.